Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to this evening's Board of Education meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to share with the audience that if you are in need of Spanish translation services, we have Lupita here to assist you.
Buenas tardes. Antes de comenzar, quisiera anunciar que tenemos servicios de interpretación al español. Me llamo Lupita y aquí estoy para servirles.
Thank you, Lupita. On behalf of the board, we'd like to share a reminder regarding the process for public comments during board meetings. For each agendized action, discussion, or information-only item, the board will hear from staff, provide an opportunity for public comment, then hold a board discussion and vote if necessary. Public comment on non-agendized items will be heard during item 7, and public comment on closed session items will be heard during item 10 before adjourning into closed session. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are on the board's agenda or otherwise within the board's jurisdiction. To help us organize public comment using this system, if you wish to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card located at the entrance to the meeting room and provide it to the executive assistant to the superintendent, Michelle. Michelle, wave. Thank you. Speaker cards for public comment will be accepted prior to the calling for public comment portion of an agenda item. I call this meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. and would now like to establish a quorum by roll call vote.
Board President Jason Romenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. May I receive a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I have a point of procedure.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to move to amend the agenda for this evening.
How so?
I would like to take item 6, information items, and move it to item 4 before the consent calendar.
Okay, Michelle, if we do that, does that reorder all the other ones after that? Okay. All right, so is that a motion then, Matt?
Yeah, so the motion would be to move the information items to item 4, moving the consent calendar to item 5, and the action discussion items to item 6, and then resuming with public comment in item 7.
Okay, I will try to keep up with that. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi,
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello,
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer,
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm just discombobulated, but I think I got it figured out. All right, I notify the audience that the open session will be audio taped, broadcast, and recorded for the district's YouTube channel. And Rita, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sorry, more point of procedure.
Yes.
We do need to adopt the agenda as amended.
I thought that was, you made the motion. Oh, so you
I made the
amend-
motion to amend it,
Yep.
and then we would need to adopt it as amended.
Oh, we didn't vote for that.
Correct.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi,
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello,
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer,
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
All right, now Rita, will you please read us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to get us back on track. Item 2, reports. These are routine status updates regarding campus activities, meeting schedules, conferences, meetings attended, and recent developments from our student board representative and our unions ACT and CSEA. Currently, our CSEA representative is out tonight, and our student representative will be late due to sports, but she will be here, and I think Sharon is going to read her report.
Yeah, so our student board representative participates in athletics and has a competition and is hoping to make it here before the end of the meeting, but just in case, I have her comments for her since she prepared them. School picture days have happened for almost everyone, which is a sure sign that the school year is well underway. Captain Cooper and River Elementary Schools had theirs taken yesterday, and the final one will be preschoolers at Carmelo, who will be getting ready to look cute for the camera tomorrow. This is No Screens Week for Tularcitos kids, where students and their families are encouraged to unplug and get creative, read a book, play outside, or spend time with others. In addition to the reward of quality time away from their devices, every student who takes the challenge will also be rewarded with a special ice cream treat. Also at Tularcitos, the fun and very popular Fall Festival, with all the excitement of its carnival atmosphere, is happening on the 26th, complete with inflatables, games, cakewalk, and the always popular teacher dunk tank. Not to be outdone, River is having its own fall festival 1 month later on October 24th with a special pre-festival just for, I think this is for TK and kindergartners from 2 to 3 before the big kids come in and take over from 3 to 5. River School also helped their community and the environment with a beach cleanup this weekend, and the 5th graders are having a 3-day science camp at the end of this month. At Captain Cooper, TK to 3rd graders are planning a field trip to the Monterey Bay Aquarium on October 8th. And at the middle school, 8th graders are getting ready for the annual Lava Beds trip next week. This is an amazing week-long camping trip to Lava Beds National Monument, where they bond with their classmates, explore lava caves, and learn more about nature and about themselves. A great opportunity for middle schoolers and high schoolers in their performing arts happens on the 25th, when the music students can attend the Monterey Jazz Festival's concert on the lawn. You can see the middle school music students perform in their own fall concert on October 8th. Also in the performing arts, the high school's production of Little Women will open in the Performing Arts Center beginning October 2nd. At Carmel Valley High School, students have been working on and completing the development of their individual learning plans, charting their paths and goals. The high school just had its Powder Puff football game, which was so much fun. It's a special assembly for the school to watch the juniors versus the seniors. The girls play and the boys support them by putting on a great halftime show and being very inspirational coaches. Seniors won 21-0. Now, the high school... Yikes. Now the high school is turning its attention and excitement to homecoming. The homecoming game is on the 26th versus Aptos. The week leading up to the game is a spirit week with the homecoming parade Thursday, a school rally Friday, the game Friday night, and the homecoming dance on Saturday. Make sure to come out and see the parade down Ocean Avenue. It's always fun and full of hometown pride. And don't miss the chance to cheer for Carmel at the big game.
Thank
That's
you,
from our
Sharon.
student board member, Juliet Norman.
All right, next up, we'll have ACT President with Bill Schreier.
Hello, everyone. Bill Schreier, President, Association of Carmel Teachers. I don't have any prepared remarks again, which may be a relief to a lot of folks. But I was sitting back there thinking, what was I going to say? And I guess I want to start with, I wish you all could see what I see when I go around this district, because I'm having to do more of it this year because of the .2 that I'm being paid for by the California Teachers Association to go out and meet teachers. And what I see on all of our campuses is a lot of really happy people. And that may be crazy to hear from a union president, because I'm supposed to be looking for problems, right? Well, that's not true. And it's astonishing to me, and it reminds me time and time again about what a great district we have. I had the fortune of sitting in with some middle school teachers last week. I will say this, middle school assemblies are about 2 octaves higher than high school assemblies, so that was something to get used to. But just to hear what these teachers think, why they're doing their jobs, how much joy they're getting out of it, and our staff, speaking to a custodian recently and how grateful he is for his work. So I know that, you know, in this forum, oftentimes it's about things that aren't working or things that need to be improved or whatever. That's not necessarily all that we do around here. Just need to remind people of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And again, our CSEA President, Anna Medina, is absent this evening. Agenda item 3, our superintendent report. This is a routine status update regarding campus activities, meeting schedules, conferences, and meetings attended, and recent developments with our superintendent, Sharon Ofek.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep my comments brief tonight. So I've had the pleasure of conducting several site visits, just like Bill, very recently, some with board members and some others on my own, to observe our classrooms and the student activities in action. And it is, as he says, truly invigorating to see firsthand the learning and engagement that takes place across our district, regardless of the level. Our cabinet team continues to prioritize community outreach, presenting our strategic plan to the Carmel Valley Kiwanis Club most recently during their monthly meeting. The reception of us was warm and encouraging, with attendees expressing genuine interest in supporting the plan's implementation and advancing our district's broader goals. And then I was also delighted to attend a fundraiser hosted by the Community Fund for Carmel Valley. It was truly a wonderful evening filled with some really meaningful conversations. I met some new community members that I had not yet met, and heard heartfelt stories about how local organizations, bolstered by the grants through this fund, have had meaningful and tangible impacts on our community. And in particular, the student speaker was Carmel High School alumna who recently graduated, who did a fabulous job of sharing her experiences with the folks who were in attendance. So being part of a supportive and connected community obviously is a very special experience, and I'm grateful that we all get to be a part of that. So that's it.
Thank you, Sharon. And just as a reminder, we adjusted the item order, so the information items previously 6 is now 4, consent calendar will be 5, and so on down the list. That's the only time I'll repeat it. So information item 4, information items. The following items are presented to the governing board as items for information purposes only. These items do not require board discussion or action. What it was displayed was the facilities master plan update, the Title IX quarterly reporting for ending in September 2025, and the calendar of board items. The board did not receive any requests for public comment, so we'll move on to the next item. Consent calendar. Agenda item 5, consent calendar. The board may bundle a number of items and act upon them together in one motion through the use of a consent calendar. Consent agenda items are routine items deemed to be non-controversial, for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the vote unless any members of the board request specific items to be removed for discussion. The board did not receive any requests for public comment. May I receive a motion to approve item 5 consent calendar?
I move-
Jason, I actually would like to
Go ahead.
remove K,
Okay.
contract for HG,
Okay,
HB
contract for HGHB. Okay.
for discussion. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, may I receive a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar without item K, contract for HGHB?
I move to approve the consent calendar excluding item K.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi,
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello,
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer,
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rita.
So I wanted to pull this item to see if we could, I guess, discuss the facility master plan first, and then maybe bundle that in with the contract for HB, because it seems like, they should be hand in hand.
Is the facility master plan agendized?
Yes.
Not really. It was the informational item only that we just did as item, whatever that was, 4. That was,
Yeah.
it was just presented as, well, that
Yeah.
wasn't a discussion item though, that was just information only. So there wasn't discussion that went
Okay.
with that one.
All
It's
right.
it's just an update, like the Title IX report and the calendar of board items, that's just presented as an update. We could ask clarifying questions, but we could not, have a robust discussion because we represented it as information only. So the information only section is just to present it to the board and to the public at regular intervals, but not for discussion at board meetings.
So we could still discuss it though, right?
We can't have like a discussion about it or debate about it. You could ask clarifying questions if you had questions on the facilities master plan. I don't know how it goes now because Matt moved it up front to present it.
Yeah,
So
but
I think it's passed.
I would object to that conversation right now. I think what we can do in pulling an item from the consent calendar is we can discuss that item as a standalone agenda item. I don't know that it would be proper to mix agenda items, even if there's a through line. I would say this, because the content of the consent agenda item K was the contract in and of itself,
Yes.
was the contract alone. So if you had questions about the contract or anything that it would take to deliberate what it would take for us to accept the contract as being presented, that would be in order. Anything else would be out of order at this time in the agenda unless we had a different agenda item.
Okay.
So I think to clarify, my understanding is when we set up the information only items, they were set up to not be for discussion. If there was a question, they were just like doing a presentation without doing a presentation. You presented the data, it's out there for public view, it's out there for us to review. And if you, for transparency, and if you have questions, you bring them to the meeting about that one, but we can't discuss where we're going with it or make any decisions because we didn't address it as an action item.
Okay, so it's
For
just
discussion.
information and no action is going to be taken.
No actions taken for the facilities master plan, but there is a
But
consent
we have a
calendar item
Contract
to do something to evaluate that, is the way I read their
Yeah,
contract, is
and
what their
it's-
scope is.
I mean, it's a $110,000 contract, which is pretty steep in my opinion.
Yeah, we can discuss that one.
So, okay,
Yeah, so this one's open for discussion because it was on the
Okay.
consent calendar and you pulling it turned it into a action discussion item. So
Okay.
you have the floor to discuss.
okay. So I was trying to research, because it seems like, is it Prop 2? Because that was my question to Superintendent. So this contract is it pretty much to set up the, I guess, the presentation for the Prop 2 measure and not for,
This contract is for the architects who originally worked with the district to create the original facilities
Facilities,
master
mhm.
plan in 2019 to come through and update the plan, because it is currently now out of date, based on the requirements of Prop 2, if we want to be eligible for matching funds that we might be permitted to, or might be granted through that source of funding. Does that make sense? So Prop 2 has requirements. If you want to qualify or submit, you know, submit a request to qualify for or receive funds through Prop 2, then it is a requirement that you have a facilities master plan that is current, and current means it needs to be 5 years or younger.
Yeah.
Our facilities master plan right now does not align to that requirement. So in addition to that, that is one source of funding that the district could potentially seek. If you think about the strategic plan, focus area 4, which is optimizing resources, a strategic objective 1 is about updating the facilities master plan. Objective 2 is exploring funding opportunities to make that facilities master plan that cost us a lot more than this originally to be realized. So these are directly connected to strategic objectives in the strategic plan 4.1 and 4.2.
Okay.
And so those two items do go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. Prop 2 is, like I said, one source of revenue we could potentially seek to support some of those efforts. There's requirements to qualify for that funding, though.
Okay.
Other opportunities exist as well that we will continue to explore. So that this particular contract, however, is for the architects to join us as we go and say, is this was a priority, this was identified in the facilities master plan in 2019. Did the district already accomplish it? Okay, take that off. Are these still the high priority items? Are these still real? And then they create a current estimate of cost that gives us more realistic dollars to work with compared to what was happening in 2019, which is pre-COVID. And we all know construction costs and raw materials have significantly increased and continue to increase year over year since then. So this is the only way we can become compliant with any other opportunity we might apply for matching dollars or funds.
Okay, so, in I guess your response back to me for the question is, in 2028, the district will qualify for approximately $19 million, but must have 40% match of approximately $13 million. What does that mean?
That's how the rules of Prop 2 work. You don't qualify every year for money. There's a period of time where if you get money, then there's a period of time you don't qualify anymore. So that's just the details there.
Okay. So,
if we don't have an updated facilities master plan, none of that matters.
yeah, no, I understand that.
Which is what this
I'm-
contract is about.
Yeah, so, but we're hoping for 19 million. Is that like, I guess,
We're not guaranteed any of it.
yeah, obviously, but.
Well, can I
We're
just
gonna
express a
spend
concern? So Proposition 2 isn't specifically agendized for this evening, so I feel like we're potentially in discussion about something that is not agendized. I don't know I don't know how the other board members feel, but I just wanted to publicly make that concern.
Rita, are you
Okay,
satisfied
actually,
with that
yeah,
part?
if we're not comfortable with the discussion of, I guess, of Prop 2 and this item,
That's
then
not what
I'm
we're saying. That's not what we're
okay
saying.
with just voting no on the contract, and you guys can vote yes.
We can discuss what's agendized.
Yeah.
We're not
Mhm.
saying that we're not comfortable
Yeah.
with the conversation. We just can't
Okay.
go over what's not agendized. So is there any other specific questions you have on this contract, on this item right here that you pulled?
I'm okay with approving this contract for Prop 2. I'm not okay with approving the contract there's one sentence in there talking about a bond. I think, I don't know what page it was on. And so I feel like there needs to be, I mean, later on in the master's committee, there's discussion about committees and things like that. So I feel like that should happen first. And then the Prop 2 and the bond, discussion and the contract go together. But if it's kind of, if
It's-
this needs to happen, then that's
Yeah, the way
fine.
I see it is this is part of the planning process to identify the needs, because 2019 is a while ago. Things have changed,
Yeah.
not significantly, but it needs to be updated.
Mhm.
So we're identifying the needs. They figure out the cost. I don't think our people are set to do that.
Yeah.
Public works projects that I've been on, and I avoid these because it's convoluted and complicated. They come at you and they have a budget. It's
Yeah.
published. So somebody writes that budget, and those people seems to be very expensive to do
Yeah.
that. And I've noticed that we've done hospital work, I've done school work, and I've backed out of it, and
Yeah.
I stick to the stuff I know. And
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I
So-
will, if I could, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I was on the Facility Master Plan Committee as a community member last time, and you and I served together. And I think there was a facilitator there for that. So there must have been, in that process, even before COVID and in the past, there must have been a facilitator or consultant chosen by the time we got to the committee. So this is, if I'm under the impression it's the same process we went through even in the past.
Correct. I was on that committee as well. And yes, there was an architect assigned to that project.
And I will, if this helps you, the district cannot bring the possibility of floating a bond to the board for any discussion or action without the information these folks are going to provide. Because you can't do that without knowing a dollar amount. So it's about the potential for funding for the realization of a facilities master plan that was invested in and created for Carmel Unified School District, that was put on hold, unfortunately, during COVID. And, do we let it die, or do we see what's possible and what's feasible? So we're proceeding based on the feedback we received in the the strategic planning process, which, the community partners participated in, that rose to the top, was update that plan and see about funding. Because our kids are working and doing school, in some instances, 85, 86-year-old classrooms. They might look good from a distance, but that is the magic of MOT.
So
Yeah.
that's my line of questioning when it talks about the adoption of this contract and the through lines to all of the other things that Rita, you bring up. And you bring up really important, valid points for consideration, because it all comes together and it all has to do with student achievement, right? It all has to do with what are the strategic objectives. But I'm really compelled, Sharon, you said something very important to me, which is that we don't achieve the strategic objective 4.1 or 4.2 if we don't get to this contract first. We need to, if we're going to make progress on a facility master plan, which is a mandate coming out of the strategic plan, it is which we adopted duly. This is a step that we take, and there's a lot of scope written in this contract that gets us to this step 0. And without that, we are falling short. So when I think of what is my obligation as far as fiscal oversight to student achievement, being strategically minded and strategic objectives, the adoption of this contract as a step 0 towards the end goal of all of that consideration is of critical importance. And just to acknowledge that the $110,000, 6 digits, looks like a big number on paper, and it is. It's no small amount of money, but in the grand scheme of what the facilities master plan is going to cost, we're talking about a fraction of a percent. And it seems sensible given what architectural costs are in the scheme of construction in the area already, which I know because of my job. So I'm feeling more and more comfortable with it. It's also worth saying you didn't have to bring this to us as a board. You were under the threshold of the requirement for seeking board approval, but as, for the sake of transparency and for the sake of engagement and being able to bring this to us and to have this conversation, which I think gets us all to a better place of deeper understanding, we get to have that conversation, but it's not a requirement. So, I'll speak in favor of this, of adopting this contract as stated and getting us to step 0 in being strategic and being forward moving.
I move to approve the contract with HGB, and which is item K on the consent agenda.
HGHB.
Sorry, HGHB.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi,
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello,
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer,
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
No.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, Spring 2025 California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, also known as the CASP. Might be CASP, I've heard it pronounced, but preliminary results presentation with Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Coordinator Andrew Rodriguez.
What are all the buttons again? It's just. Okay, it's on. There we go. Got it. All right, great. Yeah, so I'm actually really excited to be able to present this and presenting this so early in the year as well. And so, yeah, so I was going to, sorry, I'm like way too excited about data right now, so I need to just like take a step back. It's okay. Data will still be there. So my name is Andrew Rodriguez, Curriculum Instruction Assessment Coordinator, and today I'm going to bring to you the preliminary results from the 2025 CASP test. And let's see, there we go. So starting off with just our big takeaways from this, I think the biggest takeaway is that our students are doing very well. And so as well as we talked about last year on how well our students are doing, we did see some moderate increases as well, especially in the areas of math and science. But understand that, like, yes, this is a culmination of we're talking about teacher joy earlier and talking about like just awesome classroom presence and things like that. And so, yeah, this is a culmination of it, but it's not the end all be all. And so it's part of a larger assessment system that we have inside of our district. And so this is a snapshot of where our students are, but it does give us some good information to understand kind of where we are and where we're going. Along with that, the information that you'll see here, along with a few other metrics, have been shared with site principals as well as sites in general to share out with their sites, and we were able to share that out before the beginning of the year so that these things can be actionable. With that said, we will be focusing in today on 2 student cohorts, so students with disabilities as well as English learners, and taking a look how like what those scores look like in comparison to the larger population. So just a little bit about CASP. CASP, again, is one measure that we can use to evaluate student achievement. And so students take this starting in grade 3 and go all the way up through grade 8, and then they take it once in high school in grade 11. And so that's going to be in English language arts as well as math. And then for the CAST test, which is kind of under the CASP umbrella, but the California Science Test, that's given 3 times, so grade 5, 8, and then once again in high school, usually in grade 11. With that said, we are going to be looking at the percentile scores today. And so there's a few different ways that we can look at the data. We can either look at the percentile. I think most people, when it comes to kind of like the public perception or like perspective of what people want to know, like how well are our students doing overall, looking at percentages I think is extremely helpful to understand really like how many of our students are where they need to be. We can look at another metric which is called distance from standard, and that tells us a little bit more about how our students do in comparison to last year, and are we making like additional strides. That information is still in the works, and so you'll see a little bit more of that during the data dashboard presentation a little bit later this year. And so looking at our achievement levels, and these achievement levels, if you take a look at what's been happening in the state recently, the names have changed. And so they'll be changing up through this year, but these are still the current terms. So there might be a little bit of confusion if you're looking at some of the new terminology. but the new terminology is meant for the 2026 CASP administration. And so we have standard not met, standard nearly met, and the numbers that we're looking for really are that level 3 and 4, so that's standard met and standard exceeded. And that tells us that our students are at grade level and learning the things that they need to be learning. And so the first piece, we're going to start off with ELA. And so with our English language arts, what we see is that this is our year over year. So looking at our third graders, fourth graders, and seeing how well they did. One thing that you'll note is that there's a level of consistency. And so year over year, what we see is that we, our students don't see a lot of attrition. So there's not a lot of, when our students start off in third grade, a lot of those same achievement levels, by the time they're in 11th grade, even though the test is getting harder, our students are keeping up with that. And I think that's important to note. There we go. And then looking at our 3-year comparison right over here, what we'll see is that as a district, our students have pretty much maintained excellence. And so if we're looking at our percentage score, we're seeing that almost 75%, actually it's 73% of our students are scoring at or above standard. And I think another thing to note, because we always talk about the top end, but like looking at the at the area in red, we also see that that area is going down as well. And so that tells us a lot about the interventions that we have inside of our district and being able to kind of meet kids where they are and make sure that we're giving them the support that they need. Looking at our cohort data for ELA, there's going to be 2 different numbers here for English learners as well as students with disabilities. So you have a percentile score, and that's going to tell us the students who are meeting or exceeding standard. And then the other one is in the parentheses is going to be the amount of students within that cohort. I think this is important to understand because you'll see that like with our students with disabilities, for example, we have the percentages going up. We're seeing fewer students, at least right here, that are testing though. And then in comparison, we see that there's a kind of a stable number when we're looking at our English learners. And what you'll notice in both of these, though, is that our percentages are going up in both of those cohorts. Now, that's also important too because, and I know it's not here because it hasn't been published yet, and but if we look at the 2024 scores, if you look at the state level, for example, in ELA, it's, what is it? I think it's like in the high 40s. And so our students are actually catching up to like where the average student in the state is. And you'll see that even more so in math in just a minute. Looking at our students in math, we'll see that, and so math is really difficult. We talked about this the last time I presented, and because as students get older, the math gets a lot harder, and it goes from really like more tactile and I guess real to more theoretical and abstract. And so because of that, we see that there is a little bit of drop off, but then our students start catching up again. And so I think that's really important. And specifically at our 11th grade, I wanted to make sure that we note this because it's not found in here, but if you take a look at the presentation from last year, our students in 11th grade showed roughly a 15% increase from our previous year in math. And I think that's, it's about like COVID catch up, but I think that it's more so, more than that. And that's a very significant number in the grand scheme of things, especially when you look at the state numbers from last year, where it's roughly 35% of students that are scoring at or above standard. And so to have really like 63% of our students scoring at or above standard is fantastic. And then if you look at our year over year, you'll see that there's been incremental growth in all levels. So starting off with that 2023. And then once again, looking at our cohort data, and this one I think is really telling, especially for our English learners. I know that we've put in a lot of extra support and effort and a lot of additional, resources toward that. And I think that it's found within these types of numbers as well. And so looking at almost the same amount of students that are tested, but having a growth of over 10% over 2 years, I think is fantastic. And then looking at our students with disabilities, we see that there's incremental growth as well there, and then incremental growth with all of our students as well. Our final metric is going to be with our CAST test, so it's our science test. And so this one in the state, because it is a newer test and it's only given 3 years, it's a little bit harder. They're really trying to figure out how we can, I guess, follow cohorts because there's such a gap in between. But right now, I think that we at least have some information to work with. And so what we see is that there have been some moderate increases, which you'll see right over here.
Andrew,
And-
can I jump in
Oh,
for
yeah, go
1
ahead.
minute? I think it's important to note that the science test is cumulative.
Yes.
And that is a really different approach to the assessment than the others, which are assessing on current grade level standards that the students are in versus, for example, in 11th grade, it's cumulative of the science they took 9th and 10th and 11th grade. And in elementary school, it's all the science until 5th grade. It's a cumulative assessment of all the standards, which again, just makes it a different approach and a little bit more of a challenging assessment.
Yeah, and this is important too because if we're giving it in 11th grade, a student might not have had biology in 9th grade, for example, and so they might see a question that they haven't had to answer in 2 years. And so we're currently doing a little bit of tracking on the back end in order to figure out like how students are performing based on like most recent course tested. And so we haven't put that into action yet, but we're at least gathering the data to see how we can help our students, be as successful as possible. And then we saw the 3-year comparison. And then right over here, you'll note that we went ahead and took out the English learners for this one because it was less than 10 students. And so you start getting into being able to like actually identify students at that point. And the percentages are really wonky on that as well. And so overall, though, you'll see that there has been a jump for all of our students as well, so going from 58 to 60%. Now, as a reminder, just looking at our holistic assessment system, so yes, CASP, it is important, and I think our teachers do take it seriously. We had a lot of really great discussions last year about the data, and we had a chance to sit down with our different grade level groups and talk through these things and provide them all the tools that they needed to kind of go through it. But it is one metric. And so we do have other metrics. So at the district level for our screener assessments, things like our DIBBLE testing, DIBBLES 8. We also have our iReady testing, NWA MAP. And so those are all part of like a larger assessment system. And then obviously the most important ones are the ones that are done in classrooms. And so as part of our strategic plan, you'll see that, we are working toward developing those data protocols and making sure that we give teachers the tools that they need to be able to not only ingest data, but be able to use it in an actionable way so that they can help our students. Just looking toward the future. So as a reminder, like this is pretty early. And so the official scores with like the distance from standard and all that kind of stuff, and additionally, the county and state level data should be released in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll have a chance to double check it and then make sure that it's correct before making a final submission. And then the official release for public will be in October. And so probably mid-October. And we're hoping that the dashboard, because it's been being pushed back earlier and earlier, it should be sometime in early November. But I've heard some whisperings that it might be even earlier than that. And so we're very excited about it. And I think that when all that information comes out, people are going to be very excited. Thank you.
Before we open it up to comments, I just want to highlight the work of our curriculum instruction and assessment team over the last couple of years, the current team and the previous team as well. When I first arrived here in 2022, there had not been a data presentation or review of data since I want to say maybe 2017 or 18, somewhere in there, 2018 maybe, and to help rebuild and retone the data muscle and become a data-informed organization. Our curriculum and instruction and assessment team has really done a tremendous job with meeting with teachers, working with staff and administrators, helping get data into the hands of folks and helping support those kinds of conversations taking place. And you can see the benefit and the impact of that, no matter how minimal or large the overall outcome is, we are still trending in the right direction in terms of student performance. So thank you to the curriculum instruction and assessment team and the Ed Services folks for doing that.
Thank you. The board did not receive any requests for public comment, so we'll open up for board discussion, and we can start with Rita and work our way back this way.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm really happy to see that we're trending in the right direction. However, I must admit that I am still concerned about the scores in Carmel. 2019 and prior, I sent my questions into the superintendent, and I received a response back, but the board probably didn't receive the chart that I included with all the scores of our comparable schools. And so we were, with the Palo Altos and the Los Gatos and the Mountain Views and the Fremonts, we were right there with them pre-2019. So I would like to see definitely more work be put into, I guess, trying to get us back to where we were. And while I appreciate all the hard work, and I understand that we took a big hit with COVID, and we haven't, had the regular monitoring and the reports, hopefully moving forward, we can get back to where we were. So that's it. No real questions. I mean, I know everyone's working hard and doing the best they can, and there's a lot of expectation in this district, especially with our budget and the number of students here. So just want to share that.
You guys mind if I jump in and piggyback off that question? Andrew, is this the same data that we see on that dashboard that we show comparables to the district, and kind of like, because I think we were like in the middle. I don't know where we were in 18 or 19, but
So, yeah, so
and
taking
it
a look-
sounds like we have different comparables now. Did that switch?
Yeah, so taking a look at last year, because we're a few weeks away from being able to share the comparable data, because that hasn't been publicly released yet. It still needs to go through like 2 additional layers before being public. And so as of last year, if we did a comparison, and you can take a look at the 2024 data presentation and take a look at the last one of comparable school districts, what you'll notice is that we have places that are like, both financially or with amount of students, or actually it's a number of different metrics in order to determine that. And then we also have our reach districts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that if you take a look at the gains that we showed in this one, you'll see that we are catching up to those districts and making some really good progress. With that said, though, there is still that reach. So like you said, those Palo Altos, where although we're making strides toward that, there's still some ways to go. And I think that if you take a look at the metrics, though, everything's trending in the right directions, especially with the sub data, looking at like where students are scoring and how why they're getting the scores that they are. Like those are all areas of like major improvement, including like in the ELA, for example, it was in writing. And so our writing pieces showed some dramatic growth. And I think that's going to help us in the future to continue that progress.
And I'll just add in 2 things. One is the state's return to distance from standard will be beneficial for us in particular, because we'll be able to determine, here's the line that is considered standard. Where are our students in proximity to that line? And what can we do in terms of our interventions and supports to help kids at least reach, if not surpass that line, right? Our goal obviously is to surpass, but what's gonna get us there is if we do those targeted interventions, and the only way we know to do that is through a review of, that's really the benefit of having a CASP assessment, which is versus a classroom assessment where the teacher is assessing on what they taught the last 2 weeks or whatever. This is around us knowing how far our students are from standard. Maybe we have a whole chunk of kids in that orange area that are so close, so it will help us do a better analysis with the state returning to providing that information to districts. That's number 1. Number 2, I think when we look at student groups, or as Andrew has referred to them tonight, student cohorts, when we look at student groups, we need to pay attention to what those students' needs are, and the targeted supports and interventions there will make a huge difference. And I think if we were to go back and show the ELA for the student cohorts from 22, 23, the last 3 years, it goes from 4% to like 12 or 13% to an even higher percentage to ELA. And I can tell you, because I was here for all 3 of those years, we made from 22, 23, right? I came in and inherited a program. I learned about that program. We made some pretty significant changes. And to me, that says those changes we made resulted in improved outcomes for our students. Is it where we want it to be? Not necessarily, but that's an outlier outcome. So that's great. And now from some adjustments from 23, 24 to 24, 25 were made, which is great. This year, we have some pretty amazing things happening in EL yet again, and with a lot of good things happening. So we can expect to continue to see those numbers improve. But again, without that nuanced level of knowledge and understanding about what to look for in the data, which truthfully, I didn't necessarily see evidence of. It's not a dig against anyone. There were lots of things happening.
Yeah.
It's not a negative comment, but you're asking how do we get there? It's through that kind of analysis and attention to look at that information and then help our site administrators and our staff know and understand how to use the data so that they can have improved outcomes for students. Everyone here is interested in that.
And all the
No doubt.
administrators and the staff, they have access to the data and all the tools they need.
I would say they have more data than
Okay.
they ever dreamed they would have at this point.
Yeah, and we're continuing with that too. And so part of the like the Schoolitics platform is additional rollout this year to ensure that we have more access. But as of right now, like opening up SIRS, for example, last year, so that which is the platform to access these scores, and getting that done earlier last year gave people an opportunity to take a look at those
Yeah.
data pieces, and we're going to open it up again earlier this year again, and provide some training on that and how to access it. And so the goal really is to take it away from like our department and put it in the hands of the
Yeah.
people that need it,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So then we can get rid of that layer of people asking for it. And so, but we have been also putting together custom reports for sites as well as for individual departments, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm really happy the district is moving forward with data-informed decision-making and teachers and administrators having access to all the data. And I appreciate the good work. Everyone knows me, Bill knows me from the past. I have really pie in the sky, like just goals for our district. I only want the best for our students, our staff, and everyone here. So I don't mean to come off critical or negative. I want all our students to be able to dream big and pursue whatever they want to pursue in their life, whether it's trade schools or college. And I want to make sure we prepare them for that time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll continue on with board discussion or questions if necessary.
So are you subjectively happy with these results at this time?
So you have to understand, like the results that we see here, and like they get me excited, because like when I went to the California Assessment Conference last year, and people are like, "Oh, you're from Carmel?" Like, "Oh," and it's a bunch of data nerds, right? Like, "Oh, I saw your test score," blah blah. And so like people already know, and there are expectations, like you had mentioned. And so I look at it as like, yes, we're happy, but at the same time, like there's more to be done. And so that's why when we start looking at our cohort data, that gives us some additional opportunities to figure out like, okay, what other students are we missing? And how can we get students to be as successful as they can be on this? And so even if they don't meet standard, but like, they're showing incremental progress, because I've been working on trying to figure out how to put together like year-over-year cohorts for individual school sites, and on being able to look at and follow a grade level, right? And so we're working on a lot of different projects to make it as not only as accessible as possible, but also as actionable as possible. And so that was a long answer to a very short question. And so I am happy though, and I think that I think that this is something to celebrate. And I think when we look at the dashboard, when that gets released, there's gonna be a lot more celebration.
Great. I mean, and you went into what was my second question, which is about satisfaction, which is a distinction from happiness, which is to say that there's, if you're happy and you know it, do some more.
Yeah.
Which is great. And acknowledging that it's not the work of the data analysis, but the work of the teachers and administrators and the whole collective group that's actually driving this. You're just the one that gets to wrap it in a bow and deliver it to us, and that's really great. And I'm with Rita, which is to have lofty expectations about student outcomes with high opportunities and high expectations, and to be able to continue to drive and to be able to believe at a high level of what is possible for every student, and identifying at every level what is necessary to continue to achieve at a level or to continue to achieve at a higher level. So I really appreciate this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you and your team for this presentation. As you presented before, this is excellent, so thank you. You sort of answered all my questions here along the way, but I think we can all agree that everybody sitting up here, and probably everybody in this room too, is, we want only the best for all of our students, right? And I do appreciate that, sometimes we might not see big leaps of progress. So I appreciate the incremental progress, right? Because you also have to be realistic. I know that all of us want to see, great big percentage increases and movement between different tiers or what have you, but I think there is room in some areas for incremental progress, and I think that's positive, right? Because you're not going to always knock one out of the park. So I appreciate the way you're looking at all this data, the way you've pieced it all together and presented it to us. I think it's excellent, and I look forward to the next presentation that you deliver. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I had some comments prepared, but I'm going to actually shift my thinking here. And, some of the things that were said today, and we talk a lot about comparables. And even when I was a student here, that was a huge thing. You did well, but you're not Palo Alto. You did well, but you're not whoever else is exceeding at a much higher level. It's always good to compare, and it's always good to strive high. But I want the students to know here that are in Carmel, you're doing well. And we're going to do everything we can to address your needs here in Carmel with the resources that we have available. We have unique challenges in this district that other districts don't really have. We have a huge geographic area that we have to spread resources out. But I think we have to be careful with the message that this is good numbers. I was sitting in my house Sunday afternoon, jumping for joy, sweating to death out in Carmel Valley because it was so hot. But I was jumping for joy because this is such good information, and what we are doing, we are on the right track. And so to the students out there, to our teachers, to our staff, you are doing well. We are going to continue to help you strive to be better and to do things, but you are okay. And I'm happy, and I am proud to sit here, and I am proud of all the work that these people do and all of the site visits that I go to. It is absolutely amazing. It's my favorite part of the job and the happiness that I see. But I just want to make sure that we understand that you are Carmel and you're doing well. And I don't expect anything more than to just do your best.
Thank you. Juliet, I know you just arrived, but do you have any comments on the CASPA data? It was agenda item 5A before. Now it's 6. We moved to one item, so.
Yeah, I do. I looked at the slide presentation with Superintendent Ofek earlier today, so I have a good overview of it. I think just from a student perspective, and as someone who's taken all the CAST tests in this district from 3rd grade on, I think it's really important to highlight the teachers and the administrators and how well they do to prepare the students for the tests. And I think that everyone goes into the test pretty much ready to take the test, which I think is really good. And especially in elementary school, when you're first getting used to it and understanding how the tests work, they do practice tests and all this stuff. So it's like, it's very good. And I think that our district is really good at getting kids ready for the CAPS test. And I think that people go into it very confident. And I know that it's very important, and we always feel very supported while taking the test and during the weeks where we are taking the test, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and I will acknowledge too that our site coordinators do a fantastic job here. And so, you know, it's a collaborative effort. And I know that, you know, Ernesto Paclub's like running around trying to make sure that we get as many students as tested as possible. I know that down at the middle school, they run a really tight ship, and everyone, you know, is all in on this to make sure that that our students are getting tested, and also to make it a comfortable experience though too, because we don't want to make it feel like you know, if you don't do well, like that somehow this is going to be like something negative against you, but instead it's like, you know, we want you to do well because we know you can. And so I think that in comparison to other places that I've worked, it has a very like positive kind of like overall like vibe, I guess. And which is really refreshing, because at other places it's not like that.
Go ahead.
Are the students required to take it? I remember when my kids were in school, especially 11th grade, some kids opted, or they were absent, or, you know, I don't know, they opted not to take it.
Yeah, so students can opt out. It's a parents' and students' legal right. And so we want to make sure that we explain to our parents and our students the importance of the test, and how it helps us with our decision making, and it helps us understand a little bit more where students are and helps us plan. I think the other thing too is that there are, because of the updates that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years, there's additional metrics that that we can gather from the information, things like Lexile and Quantile scores. And that can give us even more data to make sure that students are placed in correct interventions and make sure that students are getting all the support that they need. And so, you know, we do get opt-outs, and students can opt out up until the day of. And so, you know, that's just part of the way that the state law is written. And so we do have people opt out. But like last year, I think a few people called me and were like, yeah, this is like the fewest opt-outs we've ever had. And I think that's a really great thing.
Yeah,
And so we want to make sure that we continue that.
I would like to just
So in-
add into that, just so you're aware, while that is 100% accurate, the state says parents absolutely have the opportunity to opt their kids out. They do penalize districts for not meeting the 95% participation rate. So just know, yes, it's the parent's right to opt their child out of taking the assessment, and the district is penalized for any, you know, the outcome of the, in terms of the percentage of students who participate. If it does not meet the 95% participation threshold, you're penalized.
Okay. What percent are we at?
So we met 95% in all but one school this year.
All but one school?
Yeah, and so that's why it's also difficult to calculate the distance from standard, because we haven't calculated the incurred penalties yet that go into that larger calculation. And so I will say that it is always a struggle, but I think that that we have some things that we want to message out this year to make sure that we hit that 95%.
Okay, and what grade was the?
So that was at the high school, and so they're always kind of like on the edge of that, just because you know,
Well,
people.
I mean, it's 11th grade, AP exams,
testing, yeah.
SATs, ACTs, so it's a tough year.
And I'll say a lot of our opt-outs tend to be students that are also rolling right into AP testing, and so trying to figure out ways. So we worked with the scheduling this year to try to mitigate that a little bit, and so it helped in some ways, and then it hindered in other ways. And so we're going to continue working on that to see if we can kind of crack that code there.
Yeah, and they have to take 11th grade, right?
The 11th grade is the required
Yeah.
grade. The science test, if you, like, kids transfer schools and whatnot, you can take the science test in a different grade, but everything is 11th
Okay.
grade.
Because the science goes to what level of high school? Is it biology?
Well, it's biology, physics, and
chemistry.
and chemistry. It's all three.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and so 11th grade tends to be the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because by by 12th grade, like you'll see a lot more opt-outs, and so there's pros and cons to like each way that you go, or even
Yeah.
trying to like offer it at different grades, and so but having it standardized this year, I think helped out with some of those numbers.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, after 14 years of school, if you start like pre-K,
I will say,
you'll be done by 11.
I will say that there are a lot of schools who struggle to meet
Yeah.
that 95% participation rate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. This was an information-only item, and there was no action necessary. Agenda item 6B, opening of sealed bids and call for oral bids for the sale of surplus real property, 27885 Robinson Canyon Road, Carmel Valley, with Chief Business Official Yvonne Perez.
Good evening. This item concerns certain real property belonging to the district which the board has deemed to be surplus. Specifically, the Robinson Barn property, which is identified as County of Monterey Assessor's Parcel Number APN 169-131-005, is a vacant parcel of approximately 1,800 square feet of land that is located at 27885 Robinson Canyon Road in Carmel Valley, at the intersection of Carmel Valley Road and Robinson Canyon Road. The Education Code provides a step-by-step statutory process that California school districts must follow in order to sell surplus real property belonging to the school district. Once a property is declared surplus, the first step is to offer the sale of the property to certain public entities and eligible nonprofit, charitable, and public benefit corporations set forth in Ed Code Section 17464. If a school district is unsuccessful in selling a surplus property through the priority offering process, the next step in the statutory process is to make the property available by sale through public bidding. If a school district receives no bids or is otherwise unsuccessful in selling the surplus property through the public bidding process, the statute authorizes the board to make the property available for sale on the open market and/or to pursue any other option legally available. During its regular board meeting on June 18th, 2025, the district board directed district staff via resolution number 25-12 to proceed with the next step in the statutory process and make the Robinson property available by sale through public bidding. The notice of sale and bidding instructions was issued by the district on July 28th, 2025. The deadline to submit a sealed written bid and bid deposit or a pre-bid questionnaire to be eligible to participate in oral bidding was 5 p.m. on September 5th, 2025, which was last Friday. The district did not receive any written bids or pre-bid questionnaires required for oral bidding. Therefore, having completed the statutory public bidding process and receiving no written or oral bids, I recommend the board make a motion to make the property available for sale on the open market or to pursue either option legally available to the district for the disposition of the property.
Thank you, Yvonne. The board did not receive any requests for public comments. I'm not sure if we need any board discussion. We'll open it up for anybody that would like to speak to this or to our student rep.
If there's no questions or discussion, I'll make the motion to instruct district staff to make the
Rita
property.
has a question.
So we received no bids.
Correct.
So next steps, you would like to go to the public for just like an open process?
And that's the
And-
legal next step, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Following the,
And before we have to vote for the next step, let's say we get a couple offers, if the below what we would like, we have the option of declining or Or what is the next step
Right, so the next
entail?
step really is to try to sell it on the open market, but there are
Mhm.
some other legal things that we could do.
Mhm.
But in terms of, my recommendation would be to go to the open market and try to sell this property.
But what if we don't, think we're getting market value,
Mhm.
what happens next? Do
Well,
we have to accept?
Yeah, I mean, any offers that were made
Yvonne,
on the
I think her
property?
question is are we bound to take any of these offers that come in, which I don't think we're
No,
bound.
no, you're not bound to. No, that
Okay.
would be a decision of the board at the time the offer is made.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in and share that, this action that, or this motion that was maybe gonna be made, but if the motion is made, that gives district staff the authority, to put it on the open market and/or take any legal actions that we're allowed to take to sell the property or do whatever with the property. So
Okay.
we can't do anything without coming back to you anyway and sharing the
Yeah.
information. That
Mhm.
happens. That happens.
Okay.
That's the legal next step, though. We can't do anything right now without getting direction from the board.
Okay. And,
Sorry, really quickly, just on the language of this, or any other option legally available to the district for the disposition of the property? Do we-
I'll give you an example. That
Okay.
doesn't mean it's going to happen here, but it's an example that I've experienced before, where, like, you could do a land swap
Mhm.
with another entity. You could do, you could donate it the way it was donated to us. You could, those are just a couple of examples. So that is the request to give us the opportunity to have a broad opportunity of what to do with the land as opposed to only this one thing.
And any subsequent
Which is a
action
sale.
would come back to the board regardless.
You
of-
bet, we don't make those
Yeah.
decisions, we just do the work
Great.
and bring them to you, bring the information to you for the decisions.
It is, and/or freaks me out in motions. So
Yvonne, this
which
leaves
are
us
items
open to the most available options in the future, right? Most flexibility.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I would like us not to be bound by any decision we make today in the future. And how much does it cost a district right now to maintain that?
I kind of object, we're talking about making a motion to making this available, so it's like a procedural thing. You're talking about real estate. Because we're talking about the sealed bid. I understand that you want to know about the specifics about the actions, but I really want to keep us narrow because we can get into the specifics. The motion is to instruct district staff to make the property available for sale.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be a good time to sell the property right now. The economy's not good, the interest rates are really high, so maybe it might be wise just to sit on it for a little bit.
At this point in the process, this was procedural, right? So for history, we worked on this back on the last board, and we were in negotiations with the county. We didn't seal that deal, and then the next step was to offer it for public bid, which we just did, and we didn't receive public bids for the property. So the next step is to now open it up to sell it. I don't think that dictates any timeline that's got to be sold this year. I think it just opens it up the deal that we're past that part now. We've done the next procedural step to release the property from being a district piece of property. Or the option to release it, I guess, is
Option to
the way
release
I'm
it.
understanding it.
And I think it's important, what we've said here a couple times is that any and all offers about the property, like you said, Sharon, whether it's a land swap, whether somebody wants to purchase it, those will all come back to the board for direction. So should we not want to take advantage of any of those offers, if we don't feel like it's fair market value or it will all come back to the group for discussion. So I don't think this is binding us into making any concrete decision right now. It's just giving you the opportunity, if I'm understanding this correctly, to open it up to see what happens next.
That's absolutely right.
So I move to instruct district staff to make the property available for the sale in the open market and/or pursue any other option of legally available to the district for the disposition of the property.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines. Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
No.
Thank you. Agenda item 6C, unaudited actual financial reports for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 with Chief Business Official Yvonne Perez. Welcome back, Yvonne.
Thank you. All right, I thought I printed out my slides and I didn't, so I'm just going to have to look up at the screen there. So you have before you, oh, I have the clicker, sorry. So tonight is the presentation of the unaudited actuals report. It's one of 3 required annual financial statements. It provides a year-end snapshot of the district's fiscal operations, and these are final numbers that could perhaps change in the financial when it sets the district up for our books to be audited by our auditors. And sometimes there are some adjustments that have to be made during the audit when it turns into an audit report that is presented to the board in January. But generally, the numbers don't generally change, and if they do, it's usually something that's fairly minor. It helps the district, county office of ed, and the state assess the fiscal viability of the current and the next 2 fiscal years, and it forms the foundation for our independent audit, as I just mentioned. So I'll spend a little bit of time on this. As you know, this is one of my favorite little charts, and the next one is another chart that I really like. But this provides just a really broad overview of our very lengthy SACS report summarized into a smaller table. So at the top there on line 4, you have the beginning fund balance that you can see we started the year of unrestricted was $24.3 million. Then if you go across to column B there, you can see that we had unrestricted revenues or restricted revenues of 3.3 million, almost 3.4, and those two combined, the blue and the yellow, make green of 27.7 million. And so I'm going to focus most of my comments on the unrestricted side because that's where we have the most flexibility in how we use our funds. And so you can see right off the top we had 78 million that came in revenue, but off the top we have to take some things into consideration. And so we added contributions from the art, music, and instructional materials block grants that the board approved a couple of years ago for 24-25, and we'll see that again in 25-26, which you can see in the next column that will be used again next year to offset operational costs of the district as it relates to health benefits. And so that actually was an inflow to the unrestricted general fund from a restricted account. Then we had a contribution to the Strong Workforce Grant. We had a contribution to special ed of $8 million, a contribution to routine repair and maintenance, all of these are required, of $2.6 million, and then we had to transfer some funds. And so contribution is going from the restricted to the unrestricted side or vice versa. A transfer is actually going from the general fund to a whole different fund, like child development or food services or adult ed, things like that. So we had 1.8 million of transfers, and so the total of those contributions and transfers was 11.7 million. And then you go down to line 13, and you can see that the revenues that were available for unrestricted purposes was almost 66.7 million. So you bump up right against that. Revenues minus expenses either give you a net increase or a net decrease to your fund balance. And so you can see that our net revenues were above our expenditures by 1.5 million. So what that tells us that we had a good year. We did not overspend our revenues. And so I like to separate that out because that really is the true picture of what occurred. And then I go ahead and because SACS requires it, we had a transfer to facility improvements and bus replacements of 2.7 million. And that left a net increase to the fund balance of $1.1 million. And so for the untrained eye, you would think, oh, we overspent our budget by $1.1 million, but we really didn't. It really was a transfer of fund balance to an investment into our facilities. So that is reported. If we were an actual business, it would have been recorded as an asset rather than an expense. And in the government accounting that we do per the CSAM, California School Accounting Manual, we record that as an expense. And so you can see that our fund balance went down to $23.1 million. And you go across there, you can see that in this reporting period, they have us compare that to the budget that was approved for July 1. All right, so I will move on. And so here is a really high overview, a comparison from year to year. And so it shows the year-to-year trends in revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. And so this is a really nice report because you can see the trend. And so you can see the beginning fund balance and how it's trending. It's actually been staying pretty steady over the years. It moves up or down almost strictly because of investments that we're making in facilities or buying other assets. If you look down you can also see on line 4 is that revenue. And so you can see the comparison year over year of our revenue. And once again, this is the unrestricted general fund. And you can see the change in our expenses year over year. And then that yellow one on line 6, that is our net increase or decrease prior to our transfer to funds that are being transferred for facility improvements. And so you can see how it's been trending across 4.6 million in 2021. It went down to 1 million. Then in the next year, we can see just below 1 million, and then we had 2.8, and I explained last year that 2.8 was really due to some expenses that were not received by June 30th, and so we had a higher balance that year. In 24-25, we can see it's 1.5, but if you take that 1.5 and you consider that transfer into the general fund from a restricted account, you're taking 1.5 minus 600, we're around, right around 900,000 or so. So still in good shape, but something to pay attention to when you compare it to 2021. And then our budget for 25-26 is a projection a year in advance. And so we're showing that we would end the year with 1.9. That year also includes that restricted transfer, that one-time funds from the restricted source to the unrestricted source. And so if you remove almost 700,000 from there, you can see where we are there. But what this shows is that we are in really good financial shape. So we're doing quite well. It doesn't mean that we don't need to pay attention to what we're doing, because we do. There is just not unlimited resources, as sometimes we hear that people think. Okay, so I will move on. So this is just a year-over-year comparison to our fund balance and the board required reserves. Our board, because we're a basic aid district, we're not dissimilar to many other basic aid districts. Some are not as fortunate as we are in Carmel, and so they fall in and out of basic aid status. They're much more like a state-funded district in that sense. But you can see the year-over-year comparison. Our basic aid reserve is based on a formula that is written into our board policy. I think it's a really good board policy for a basic aid district, that we need to reserve more than the state requires because of the volatility of our revenue and our cash flow. So we ended the year with a 26.34 unrestricted fund balance. The board required reserve is 22.25, and so we had a $3.6 million difference. And below that, you can see how we are assigning or committing those activities. And so the revolving cash is $5,000. We have a textbook set aside because we know that we have some big textbook adoptions that are coming forward. In the new fiscal year, we would have budgeted those, but in the year that we're ending, we'll reserve it for those expenses. And reserve for cash, because you've heard me talk about this, we do almost run out of cash every year. We literally do run out of cash. And fortunately, it comes in just in time. And so we have 2.9 set aside for that. And we had a lottery carryover this year of 79,000. And so that is a source of the unrestricted general fund, but it has some restrictions to it. So we'll reserve that. And so the total there balances out. So you can see how we're assigning that fund balance. Here's the slide on the revenue sources of the general fund, and it has some dollars and percentages. The biggest source of our unrestricted general fund is LCFF sources. And that LCFF sources is 75 million in the unaudited actuals. And if you look below, you can see that property tax of that 75 million, 73 million comes from local property tax, which is why we are considered a basic aid district. We get most of our funding locally. And so that's a nice comparison. It does fall in the category of LCFF sources. Oh, I'll go back there just a little bit. You can see on the restricted side that we went from 8.8 million in restricted revenue to 7.8, so it reduced. And then our budget for 25-26 is showing an additional reduction in those revenues. All right, this is the use of our unrestricted general fund. Once again, I like to put a comparison of the year before. Those are final numbers, they never change. And so you can see that a big part of our budget goes to salaries and benefits. We are a people-oriented organization. And so 84.5% of our unrestricted general fund goes to salaries and benefits. And you can see where it falls out in the other areas. And at the bottom there, I'm showing just the transfers from transfers to other funds and to restricted sources. Here's our restricted general fund dollars in yellow. And so once again, it's a little less than our restricted funds. We had 75.24% of our expenditures were in salaries and benefits, and then it falls out as detailed there. And this is the combined general fund. And so once again, I'm going to focus on salaries and benefits. And so you can see on the combined general fund that we are 82.49% on salaries and benefits, and that is pretty typical across the state on what districts are spending on salaries and benefits. We're not different in that respect. And so our total expenditures were 83.4 million. And this is just a graphical representation of the information. Easy to see that, as we just mentioned, 82% of our budget goes towards the general fund, and most of our resources on that other graph shows that it comes from LCFF sources. All right, so I provided information on the contributions and transfers from the unrestricted general fund dollars, and I detailed that out. And we can see that special education in the year before, we spent almost 7.2 million. That increased this year to 8 million, and so that was an increase of $878,000, and so quite a large increase in our investment in our special ed program. You heard me talk about that 682 already. Our routine repair and maintenance is just a function required contribution of 3% that we're required by the state to put towards our facilities, to maintain our facilities. And then the other accounts you can see there, one of the big account funds that we have to transfer to is child development. And so you can see that there's different pots of money that we're tracking in the child development fund. So there's 3 lines there, 1, 2, 3, 3 lines. 267, 671, and 23,350 for the ELOP program. We had an additional transfer from to Fund 12 from our restricted resource for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. At the bottom, you can see that was an additional 140,000. And those funds are used to support students in the after-school program per the ELOP requirements that we provide a 9-hour day and 30 extra days of programming each year. And so the funding almost covers it, but not quite. And then we had some other transfers for post-employment benefits. This is our retiree benefits of 824,000, and you can see there's a difference there. And then those are our contributions going from from the unrestricted to the restricted for the most part, and then we had transfers for improvements to our facilities. So the budget cycle and timelines, I've put it here. I like to highlight those different years in color because it just highlights that at many points during the fiscal year, we are working on 3 different budgets. Right now, we are hot and heavy into our audit. They started because our unaudited actuals were complete, although we're presenting that to the board tonight. They have put in a large amount of requests, and so the business office is working diligently to provide all the information. And so they're auditing the 24-25 fiscal year. In 25-26, we'll see the governor's budget come out, and that's when we will start actively. We'll start earlier. We're hoping to start earlier, but really start planning the next year budget. So fiscal impacts and challenges. We have rising pension obligations and healthcare costs. I'm sure everybody has heard that we will have a 15% increase in our healthcare costs this year, and so we'll have to figure that out. We have aging facilities, and so this highlights the need for modernization. For many of our facilities are approaching 80 years, and so they are in dire need of modernization, maybe even replacement, and so the only way we could possibly do that is with a future bond. We have economic uncertainty tied to different things and property tax inflections, and with the federal government, we're not really sure still what is happening with some of our federal revenue. We have growing special education costs, as you saw, and UTK expansion. We've talked about this many times, that as a basic aid district, we do not get any additional funding for that. Declining enrollment, although it is true that we don't lose funding like our state-funded districts do due to declining enrollments, we certainly still have our challenges. And so we're continually, as an administrative team, looking at every position that becomes available and making a really informed, valid decision if we need to fill that position or not. Because if you look back at that history that I showed on that second slide, or second or third slide, you can see that our ability to sustain what we've always done is starting to diminish, and so we need to pay attention to that. And so, it is always a balance to balance our salaries, and we want to be competitive out there. We want to honor all of our staff, our teachers, and all of our staff, and making sure that they're compensated fairly. We have just wonderful celebrations and growth, as Andrew was giving his presentation just before this. I thought we really have, I think that we really have just a talented ed services team. We have a talented technology team. We have talented teachers. We have people that care, and that's what makes us Carmel. We just have a wonderful district that we need to celebrate often and continue to point those celebrations out as we go on. So, we just have highly qualified people that work for our district. The strategic plan is a celebration. We don't have a conversation nowadays where we're not talking about how does this fit into our strategic plan, and is this going to drive us in the direction that we need to go. We do have competitive salaries, and we need to stay that way, so we are always keeping that in mind. Just fantastic fine arts, athletics, and extracurricular activities remain one of our strengths. And we have a lot of expanded elementary enrichment, wellness supports, and career readiness programs. And we also have really ramped up. It really became part of the Educator Effectiveness Grant, allowed us to do just some extensive professional development, and we're continuing that forward. As we planned, those funds will be expired by the end of this fiscal year, but we did plan in the 25-26 budget for additional funding for professional development, because we know people need to stay on top of their game, and so we need to invest in our people. This is just a really nice slide provided by School Services that I like to use, and it just shows in a really nice way the basic reporting cycle for schools. And before I end, and I want to make one more comment after I talk about this slide, is just special thanks to Robin Voss, who is this, and she's here tonight, Senior Director of our Fiscal Services team, and all of the people on our team that help us get to this end game. It is no easy task. Lots and lots and lots of hours go into this during the summer, and it's complicated. And she, being new in that position, just did a phenomenal job. So very proud of the work that comes out of this department. And then I want to address just a question that Rita Patel asked prior to the meeting, and it has to do with the SACS report. And I have never had anybody ask this question. And she said, well, maybe I just won't ask the question, but I do want to address it just a little bit. If you'll switch to the actual SACS report and go to page 80, there is a lot of information in the SACS report. It's 140 some pages long. On page 80, there is a report about classroom. It's the percentage that is going to the classroom. And in this report, we did not meet that requirement. And many districts, unified districts, and even elementary districts, but unified districts often do not meet this requirement. And it does require us to provide additional information to our County Office of Ed and to ask for an exception to the requirement and they will approve it. Because many people think that this report should go away, but it's still part of the SACS reports. It's a method of comparing other districts. But what happens in this calculation is it takes the expenses that you have in the classroom, which there's these functions in the SACS report or in our standardized accounting system. And so the functions that go to the classroom are like 1 through 19999. And it doesn't account for all of those support services that we have. And so as we've added more support services in the form of counselors and mental health clinicians, speech therapists are actually in here, but some of your ancillary services, they don't go into the calculation, but they certainly support students. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes, as you add those kind of expenses to your budget, which we have, it becomes a little bit harder to meet that minimum classroom requirement. And so that's the reason behind it. If you'll scroll down a little bit more, this section is actually almost 20 pages long. Keep going. We are required to justify it, and one of the ways that we can justify it is to show a comparison of our classroom teacher salaries with some of our comparison districts. And so this is why I have 100% confidence that our County Office of Ed will not have any trouble approving our request for a waiver on this section. And so there you can see that we are competitive in our salaries, and that's what we have to show. It's one of the ways that you can show that you qualify for an exception to the requirement. The other thing, if you'll scroll down to the very end, there are these technical checks. And so go all the way to the bottom of the SACS report. And there's these technical checks that generate as a result of the calculations. Many of the ones that are in there as an exception, it will say exception, we have to provide an explanation if it comes through as an exception. If it's a fatal, we have to go back and make a correction. And so it will let you go ahead and submit your SACS report with some exceptions. And so there was a question about what do those exceptions mean? And most of those exceptions, except for the one that I just talked about, is a timing of money. So it's an entry that was made because there's a negative cash balance, but we're waiting for some accounts to come in, and so we book it as a receivable, but the cash is in the negative at the point in time that this is created. So that's the point of those exceptions. And so thank you for asking for that. I think that I was surprised that anybody ever asked. I've never had anybody ask that question, so I thought I would address it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Yvonne. The board did not receive any requests for public comment. We can open it up for board discussion or questions, and we'll start with Rita.
Okay. Thank you for a wonderful presentation and addressing the exceptions. That was, I really appreciate that. Only just one question, really. I wanted to go to, on the presentation, page 4 and 5. I think we talked about, you mentioned 3% reserve for, let me see where.
For routine repair and maintenance?
Yeah, routine repair and maintenance. So is that the same as, how much do we put aside for deferred maintenance? Is that the percent that we?
Right, so it's different than deferred maintenance. The state used to have a deferred maintenance program. When LCFF, the funding formula was changed, at the time it was Governor, what was his name? Johnson? Brown, Governor Brown. He really was instrumental in revamping the funding formula for the state of California for schools. It went from a revenue limit calculation, which was extremely complicated. They were making all sorts of exceptions to it. And so they developed the LCFF formula. When that formula was developed and implemented, they did away with the deferred maintenance program. Districts could apply for state funding match for deferred maintenance, and that is Fund 14. And so Fund 14, we still use it, but there is no longer any state match available for it. So the board, a few years ago, they provided direction to staff that we could begin to put $200,000 in the deferred maintenance fund, Fund 14. We mostly we're saving that at one point in time where we were saving it to replace the turf on the athletic field at the high school because it's going to be a very expensive replacement. Since we started doing some of these additional facility improvement projects that we've had quite a few over the years, we've had a dip into that. So we moved it and the board approved that we could move funds from Fund 14 to Fund 40. The source of Fund 14 and Fund 40 is the unrestricted general fund.
Okay.
Reserves, really.
So how much do we have in Fund 14?
It's on here. I will show you where you can see it.
Is there any interest on the district's part to,
Oh, I didn't put it in here. On your paper, on your summary report, it is in the summary report. Let me look here really quick.
Save-
It's not as much as we used to have. Because we've moved it to facility projects. Here, just a second. On page, if you'll jump to the actual report, there's a table in there in the actual report that shows summary of other funds, and you can see that there. It's towards the last page of this report, so if you'll just
okay.
scroll through there to about page 7, I think, 7 or 8. Yeah, this is it. It's kind of small. But your summary of other funds, so in deferred maintenance, the balance at year end was $556,000. You see that
Yeah.
on line 4? It says Fund 14. That's your
Yeah, Fund
deferred
14.
maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did some transfers out of that account into Fund 40 for facility improvements.
Is there any interest in on the district's part to maybe put aside more money?
It could be a discussion, yes, as we begin to build next year's budget. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. But really, the amount that we're putting in deferred maintenance, we have, if you take some time to read that report, that was an informational report on the facility master plan. The facility master plan does identify a whole bunch of deferred maintenance projects that need to occur in the district. We literally do not have the general fund dollars to do all of the deferred maintenance that we need to do, and we just don't have it.
That's all my questions. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I don't have any questions. No questions, thank you.
No questions on my end either. Thank you for a really thorough presentation, Yvonne, and thank you for always making this data and in this information really digestible and transparent and clear. If there's community members that have questions about our budget, I believe these slides that you've provided and the documentation that you've provided have been very, very clear about, as you stated, what the true picture of our financial health, if you will, is. So thank you very much to you and the team.
Thank you.
I was told from another board member in a local school district here in Monterey County how lucky we are to have you and what you do here and how thorough you are. And so in the industry that you're in, I just want you to know that you're getting lots of good kudos and compliments.
Oh, well, thank you.
So thank you.
I have no questions. Juliet, do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a comment. I know that especially as students at Carmel Unified School District, we're told from a very young age, I think teachers find it very admirable that students, the amount of money spent per student in our district is pretty high compared to the rest of the county, and I think that that's just really important to highlight. I don't know, it's over 20,000, right?
Yeah, it's well over 20,000.
Okay. But yeah, so I think that's important to highlight for sure.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Now, if there's no other questions or comments, may I receive a motion to approve the 2024-25 fiscal year unaudited actuals financial report as presented?
I'll make a
By
motion
permission.
to,
Doesn't matter. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. I make a motion to approve the unaudited actual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 6D, resolution number 25-18, GAN limit adoption with Chief Business Official Yvonne Perez Still.
Thank you. This is an annual resolution that is part of our unaudited actuals that calculates through that SACS process. And so it's an annual resolution calculating the GAN limit. And so I would just recommend that you approve the resolution adopting the GAN adoption.
The board did not receive any requests for public comment. Are there any questions or comments from the board, or may I receive a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 25-18, which establishes the revised GAN limit for 24-25 and a projected GAN limit for 25-26 as presented.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Yvonne. Agenda item 6E, public hearing and resolution number 25-14, sufficiency of instructional materials presentation. Before we hear from staff on behalf of the board, I officially open this public hearing. We will now hear from Deputy Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Mary Petty.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Ofek. Thank you for having me here again. Tonight's public hearing is a state-mandated and annual review to confirm the sufficiency of our instructional materials here in Carmel Unified School District. I am pleased to report that our district does have sufficient standards-aligned textbooks and instructional materials for all of our students, including our English learners, for both in-class and at-home use.
The board did not receive any requests for public comment. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? No. On behalf of the board, I now close this public hearing, and may I receive a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25-14, sufficiency of instructional materials as presented.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 6F, resolution number 25-15, commemorating October 12th through 18th of 2025 as the week of school administrator with Superintendent Sharon Ofek.
All right, so we bring this resolution annually to honor and support our school site administrators and district office administrators, any leaders in the administrative positions. There is no difference this year, except for that we are bringing it the month ahead, which means we're on track to have all of our resolutions presented ahead of the month they take place in. So I'm happy that we are have aligned everything in that manner. But this really does honor all of the work and effort of our site administrators, much like we do for staff in classified and certificated staff in the spring. This is for leadership. I will just preemptively say, because I get asked this question every year, what are we doing? This particular week happens to yet again fall during our October break. So we are working on doing something for our administrators the week before we go.
We did not receive any requests for public comment. I think it's really nice that you give the administrators the week off for their administrator week. Are there any questions or comments from the rest of the board? And if not, may I receive a motion?
I'll make a motion, and I think a week off is a good way to celebrate, actually. I move to adopt the resolution 25-15 commemorating October 12th to 18th, 2025 as the week of the school administrator as presented.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 6G, resolution number 25-16, bid award, Carmel Middle School Softball Skills Facility with Chief Operations Officer Dan Paul.
All right, the district opened bids for the project last Wednesday. 7 contractors attended the walkthrough, 5 submitted bids with Bosco Construction Services as the low bidder. The project schedule anticipates completion before the start of softball season.
The board did not receive any requests for public comment. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Go ahead.
Yeah. Is this the lowest bid?
Yes, $530,000 is the lowest bid.
The lowest bid. For me, with, business, we try not to go with, personally, I try to go in the middle, not the highest, not the lowest. And so I just want to, I guess, just make sure that we're going, they've been vetted, and we don't have any issues going forward.
The contractors have to meet certain requirements to be able to bid on public works projects, and public contract code requires school districts to accept the lowest bid.
Okay.
So we don't have
We
a
don't
choice.
have a choice. Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions or comments?
No. Thank you.
And
I'll make
thank you.
I'll make a motion to award the bid to Bosco Construction Services as presented.
Second.
Board President Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Jake Odello.
Yes.
Board Member Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Matt Glazer.
Yes.
Board Member Rita Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 5H, determination of 3 highest bidders, consideration and adoption of resolution number 2517, resolution of acceptance of highest and best bid for sale of surplus real property 27885 Robinson Canyon Road, Carmel Valley, or reject all bids with Chief Business Official Yvonne Perez. Do we need to present, or I can just move on to, okay.
Yeah.
We did not receive any written or oral bids for this. To rank, accept, or reject under the agenda item, I think it was 6B is where we ended up with it. So I'd like to just move on to item 7 if possible, unless anybody has any objections.
So do we have to make a motion since there was no
We-
written or oral bids?
We don't have to.
Okay.
We can just move on.
Okay.
Thank you. And we already completed the previous item 6 as item 4 when we adopted the agenda. Public comment on non-agendized items. That's agenda item originally 7. Now I believe it's 8. Public comment on still 7? Still 7. Okay. Yes, because now we're past that part. All right. We were on track. Now I'm back off track. Thank you for your patience. Public comment on non-agendized items. Members of the public may address the board regarding items or topics within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda at this time. And we'll start with number 1, Paige Parisi, I believe. And please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. 3, yes.
This mic's on. Oh, wow. Hi, I'm Paige Parisi. I'm coming to you as a Carmel parent. I have 2 kids in elementary. I'm also a surf soccer coach. I have been very frustrated. I've been, doing surf soccer for about 5 years. I really love coming to Carmel Middle School and using the fields. They're the best fall evenings. We've also recently been able to use the river fields. Again, earlier practice, best evenings. These kids are loving soccer. I've been a coach about 4 or 5 seasons now, too. We are having real problems with the being approved for fields and then having them taken away, and it's just a yo-yo process. We hear it from the soccer side saying that insurance isn't up to date. We hear that that's not correct. I mean, there's just a lot of back and forth that I don't know what the real story is, but it's really frustrating. At 1 o'clock today, we were told we cannot practice at 4 o'clock, even though I was there yesterday and I specifically saw booked off for just soft surf soccer 4 to 5 p.m. I saw it on the computer. No other conflicted dates. Conflicts in October, but not in September. So I had 3 more weeks that I think we should have been able to practice. So all these changes, all these yo-yoing of the people that run Facilitron or whoever approves this and says it's approved and says it's not, affects me so much. It affects my 10 other kids on their roster. Imagine every team having to change now. Today, Tular Middle School and River weren't able to practice. That's a ton of teams. Half of the 450 kids in surf soccer this season are from Carmel. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of grandparents picking up, parents leaving work early, figuring out the carpool. It's a complete human toll, and it's really frustrating. So what I've seen with my own eyes in the computer, it looked like we had the fields, and then being told we can't use them. It's frustrating. So whatever the process is, I would like it to be looked into, to work better. These are our kids. These are going to go to Carmel middle school kids, half of them. They love playing soccer. They have no other fields besides these fields. We can't go to Forest Hill Park. There's no other option. I mean, we love using them. We're doing our best. People are really not parking on the grass anymore. They're not bringing the dogs, all the little requirements. The insurance hasn't changed as far as they know. As far as Surf knows, the requirements haven't changed either. It's like this moving goalpost of, oh, insurance. And I don't even know what the deal is. But I would love to partner better with them. I also volunteer with PTO. We have the same kind of problems of, oh, insurance and not approved, not approved. It's just this yo-yo through this Facilitron process. So I would like some help with that so we can have a better partnership, better community, and serve these kids and let them get outside and play. This is where they're going to go to school. This is where they already go to school, you know? And I do it because they have such joy. I had to take practice to the beach today, which was amazing. Again, it's our community, so let's work better together with the people that are helping schedule and taking them away on short notice and everything.
Thank you. Great timing. Number 2, Chelsea Batson.
Hi there. How's it going? My name's Chelsea Batson. I'm going to read from my phone if that's okay. I'm coming from the perspective of a parent. I want to communicate my frustration with the facilities approval process. Our kids look forward to soccer season in the spring and fall, so much so that they've asked for a 3rd or 4th season. What we've experienced over the past 5 seasons is constant changes and miscommunications. Just this week, we had our available field time change 4 times, with the last communication at 1 p.m. today. In that communication, all surf parents for ages 4 to 13 were told that all field usage was paused by CUSD pending a meeting between facilities and surf soccer. We are 1 week into the season with 225 CUSD and 225 non-CUSD, students participating, and their soccer life is put on hold for something that should have been discussed prior to the season starting. The district has not communicated any issues or changes with insurance requirements. Surf Soccer has always maintained district required insurance and done everything the district has requested. As a CUSD graduate, I swear I came from this school, and now a parent of 3 kids in the district, I'm asking you to implement a solid and clear facilities reservation process so that we're not running into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 8, informal report with Superintendent Sharon Ofek.
I will just mention, since we had our speakers, that there is a meeting tomorrow. I'll confirm they mentioned it, but I will also share that there is a meeting happening tomorrow with Surf Soccer. So hopefully our community members will hear about the outcome of that meeting.
Agenda item 9, board committee reports. These are routine committee updates with CUSD Board of Education board representatives for Community Human Services, Mission Trails Regional Occupation Executive Board, and the Monterey County School Board Association Executive Council Legislative Representative Liaison. And we'll start with Community Human Services Representative Rita Patel. Is there anything to report, Rita?
Not too much. I mean, business is as usual. However, there is a big development. Robin McRae, she's retiring. So we are going through the process of a search and hiring a new director. So a lot of work to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Mission Trails Regional Occupation Executive Board Representative Jake Odello.
I was able to attend their last executive board meeting on September 4th. I was lucky enough to have Dr. Mary Petty join me with that. And again, we were at Everett Alvarez High School in Salinas. And we heard presentations from their students and what they're doing for CTE, agriculture education, video media production, which was pretty cool. And their culinary students made dinner. I'm just gonna say, you all missed out. Oh, and they made a creme brulee that was, I mean, it was beyond. I was dreaming about it even into this week. And then we did, the good news is that we have our, the CTIG application for this next round was submitted on behalf of the JPA, and so that was some big news there. We talked about some possible legislation and standards updates that we had good discussions over, and ultimately everything, that meeting went well. That was our first meeting. Carmel will host in November. We will host that meeting here, which will be very exciting. And it just goes to show you every time I go to this, I mean, we're so lucky to have Dr. Yvonne Glenn here and the work that she's doing, and being a part of this JPA is very exciting, and being able to collaborate with our county partners. It's very exciting, so thank you.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When are we hosting in November, and can we attend if we would like? I've never been to one of these meetings, and they sound super interesting, so.
I was just gonna say, I'll provide all the information to the board in a separate message, because
And wrapping up, last we have Monterey County School Boards Association Executive Council Legislative Representative Liaison Matt Glazer.
Still no report. I look forward to hearing of their next scheduled meeting.
Thank you. Item 10, closed session. Before adjourning to closed session, the board will identify the closed session items and provide an opportunity for public comment on these items. Student matter, expulsion, and request for readmission pursuant to Education Code 48912 and 48916. Item A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, Subdivision D1, Monterey County Superior Court case number 23CV003167, Davy Christine versus Carmel Unified School District. B, conference with legal with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, agency designated representative Craig Chavez. Employer organizations are the CSEA, ACT, and non-represented groups. The board did not receive any requests for public comments on closed session items, so we will adjourn into closed session at 7:32 p.m. Thank you. apologize. We're live? Okay. Coming out of closed session, the board reports the following. For item 10A, in closed session, the board took unanimous action to deny the request by student number 2025001 for readmission to the district following expulsion. For item 10B, the board met with legal counsel to receive an update and provide direction regarding the case referenced on the agenda. For item 10C, the board received an update from district staff and provided direction. I adjourn this meeting at 9:13 p.m. Thank you. Good night.